When the economy tanks, even more people find themselves struggling to make rent. More people end up without reliable housing. More become homeless. Yet these working poor are just one component in the category known as homeless people. Homelessness is a complex and terrifying problem. Today, the Alberta government became the first among the provinces to try to tackle the issue with a 10-year strategy. Housing and Urban Affairs Minister Yvonne Fritz and Steve Snyder, the chair of the Alberta Secretariat for Action on Homelessness, released the plan this morning. Here's Steve Snyder.
It's going to need change by a lot of people. It's going to need change by the organizations who deliver the services for homelessness. It's going to need change in policies. It's going to need change in terms of the funding, how we fund. It's going to force us to move to outcomes-based measurements and not input-based measurements. So there's a lot of change here, but it's not earth-shattering change. Just common sense, in my opinion, type change. And we need to overcome some inertia. And the time frame to do it. It is a 10-year plan. This is a very complex issue. We are not going to solve this problem in 6 months or 12 months. And, the 80-20 rule applies, so in terms of the cost at least, we can deal with a lot of the cost issues up front, but the long-term solutions will take a number of years to implement. And so I think we need a bit of patience. We need to be willing to change, and we need to be able to fund the programs over the next 4 to 5 years.
That is Steve Snyder. And we are opening up the phone lines for the next 25 minutes or so to find out your thoughts on the province's strategy. Do you think it will work? Should we be providing more emergency and transitional housing to people? Are we dealing with the other components of this properly? Support for people living with mental illnesses. Lawyer and policy analyst Ken Chapman of Cambridge Strategies in Edmonton has been looking over the provincial initiative, and he's my guest for the next half hour to talk about it. So give us a call at 1-866-468-4422. That's 1-866-468-4422. Give us a call right now and tell us what you think the province should be doing to tackle the homelessness problem. 1-866-468-4422. Ken Chapman, welcome back to the program.
Good to talk to you, Donna.
Well, what do you make of the timing of this 10-year strategy to end homelessness?
Well, I think the timing in terms of the economic cycle is really interesting. You'd think you'd be doing this when you had lots of money and not the problem in the typical fashion. But what's nice about this is they're addressing the problem in the down cycle of the economy when, in fact, it's likely to going to get worse than it is now. So I'm pretty encouraged that they're addressing it now. It's, the politics of this would tend to make you think that they would do it in the up cycle, but by gosh, it's really impressive to see they're doing it now. And to take a 10-year point of view, this is not just an election gimmick. This is a pretty serious policy change.
Mm-hmm. So have you had a chance to look at the basic issues involved in this strategy? What's in it, Ken?
Well, it's a big, ambitious project. I mean, they're looking at 11,000 units. They're already well on their way. With about 5,600 that they're starting already. But the key things is they're looking at permanent housing for people with support services to make them more self-reliant and to give them stability in their lives, and it's over and above emergency shelters. This is taking an entirely different point of view. Like Steve Snyder said, this is about outcomes, not just about inputs, and it's about a permanent solution to the issue, not just managing the problem. And it's a very, very ambitious and enlightened program.
Ken, how do you think it's going to be received in Calgary and Edmonton, the two cities with, of course, the largest homeless populations in the province, but also with very different ways of tackling homelessness?
Well, the Edmonton Committee to End Homelessness released their report in January, and this almost parallels what they're saying. They were talking about a 10-year strategy and the same kinds of things to facilitate the development of units, to deal with addictions and mental health issues, to deal with it on a permanent solution basis, and it's a home-first kind of approach. And I think the same thing is out of Calgary. Calgary has responded to the homelessness issue by the business community getting very, very active and starting to do things about it themselves and directly. And Edmonton's approach to it has been very typical of the two cities. Edmonton's approach is to get a community group together to do an extensive study and to do a report on it. The parallels between the Edmonton and the Calgary outcomes and approaches are exactly aligned with what the province is trying to do here. And the secretariat that the province appointed is a very, very high quality and diverse group of people that could really tackle the issue. So I'm pretty impressed that Edmonton and Calgary is going to be fine, but homelessness exists beyond there too. I mean, you've got You got lots of problems in the north. You got, in Fort McMurray, you're going to have some problems, I think, in the northwest pretty soon. And as you heard earlier in the news reports, we're talking about doubling the amount of foreclosures. At the end of the day, when a foreclosure goes badly, you're out of your house.
Yeah. Let's hear from some of our callers. I want to remind people, if they'd like to join our conversation, the toll-free number is 1-866-468-4422. We are talking about Alberta's 10-year provincial plan to end homelessness. It's the first province to do such a thing, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Our guest for this half hour is policy analyst Ken Chapman of Cambridge Strategies in Edmonton. Let's hear first of all from Alvin. He joins us on the line from Canmore. Hi, Alvin.
Good afternoon.
Hi, what do you think about this approach?
Well, I've got a particular feeling that a lot of our homelessness today stems from people that have been abusing drugs and alcohol for a long period of time. I know that's certainly not the entire thrust of the problem, but I go back to when I was a kid. Homelessness used to mean that you got flooded out of your house in the spring when the river overflowed, or if your house burnt down or something. And now it's become such an industry. And getting back to the substance abuse thing, I just look at the courts, the way they handle, the police will go out there and do a major drug bust, and this thing goes to court, and the guy gets $1,000 fine or something. And the drugs are infiltrating our school systems and our communities in general. And the will of the government to take issue with substance abuse in general is just a real problem for me.
Mm-hmm. And Ken, actually, they did address this in this strategy.
Yeah, they're talking about the necessary supports, and that's not code. That's really talking about mental health issues and drug addiction issues that they're going to be dealing with. They're going to be doing additional supports for that directly.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that, Alvin? Because people who have drug addictions or mental illnesses and end up on the street also need a place to live.
Well, they certainly do, but I sort of take the focus to get this thing in its very early stages. I know we have to do something for the folks that are currently in stress, but it just seems to me that if we don't address the root cause of the problem, I think that this 10-year study or 10-year plan is. Let's face it, homelessness has been a problem. There's been homeless people, in our society since the beginning of communities. So, to say that we're going to end homelessness, I applaud the effort, but I'm just wondering if we don't get after the root cause of homelessness. Or the causes of homelessness, I just sort of think we're, sort of spending a lot of money here, and maybe it's not going to have the end result that we seek.
The thought, Alvin, here is that it's a home first. You're absolutely right. This is not a prevention program as much as a remediation, mitigation, and rehabilitation approach. The approach here is that those people with those kinds of problems who have them now and are living with them on the street are not going to be able to solve those problems until they're in a safe and secure place to live.
True.
And then they can address those things. Your issue is well taken, and we've got to go upstream further into prevention and start looking at how we deal with the issue of addictions primarily. Mental illness and that kind of thing is a different problem, but addictions, we've got to do something more in our society to address them. This is not, you're right, this is not solving that problem the way you're suggesting, but it is addressing the problem that we have right now, and I think that you're well taken. We've got to do more in that other area.